This isn't real. It can't be. What's happening to me?
Right now, you're in a medically induced coma being prepped for surgery. You've got a new bit of hardware inside your head. It's called a direct neural interface, or DNI. I've got one too. That's how I'm able to communicate with you. Your DNI is what connects your mind with your new body and the larger world around you. We're connected. All of this is a simulation inside our minds.
Call of Duty has had an interesting problem to solve in recent years. On one hand, Activision's stable of developers who make the games on a rotating basis have dedicated fans who love the series for its tight, high frame rate action. On the other, there are those who want to see meaningful changes to the series in each iteration. The solution has been that the last 3 games in the Call of Duty series have been remarkably different from one another, each having their own distinct traits from the developers working on them. With Call of Duty Black Ops 3, Treyarch returns as this year's developer, and continues the trend for a series that is familiar, yet still evolving, while offering the most content-rich Call of Duty game to date.
Tell me what you got for us.
The series most certainly could be called formulaic, but radical changes to movement in last year's Advanced Warfare ushered in a new era for Call of Duty. Players were no longer limited by gravity. Exosuits had players boosting around the map, and this freedom of movement is expanded by Treyarch with the addition of wall running and sliding alongside boost jumps and special powers in both single-player and cooperative, as well as multiplayer game modes. The result is a shooter that plays at a breakneck pace with fast and fluid gameplay in any mode. There's also a focus on customization across the entirety of the game, whether that's in selecting a specialist in multiplayer and outfitting them with unique cosmetic upgrades and abilities to take onto the competitive battlefield, or in the single-player campaign where players can customize skills and looks as well. Black Ops 3 as a whole is a good mix of old and new, but its single-player campaign feels different than anything that's been tried before in the series. While it's as bombastic as ever, Treyarch tells a different type of story in this go-round, a narrative that gets, if anything, a bit weird at times. Scientists have developed cybernetic abilities that link soldiers' brains together, allowing them to communicate, becoming the perfect killing machines. The small print being that you might hallucinate or lose touch with reality from time to time. Artificial intelligence has been designed and brought to the point of self-awareness. Robotics have seen great advancements and are used extensively in the battlefield. Black Ops 3 is far more science fiction than we've seen from the series in the past. While we've visited some dystopian futures where scientific advancements have made incredible or terrible progress, Black Ops 3 goes all in on this premise and pivots away from the traditional good guys must get bad guy approach. At one point, you're storming through a battlefield in World War II. In others, you're fighting a rogue soldier in a giant mech. Get far enough and you'll be coddling a toddler in a lucid dream state. Call of Duty Black Ops 3 is still a first-person shooter and a very good one, but there have been some pretty significant changes to the gameplay as it also veers away from being a straight-laced shooter and into something more like an RPG with character customization in terms of both looks and abilities. Players can choose to fight as either a male or female soldier, and that selection is represented in things like cutscenes and voiceovers. While that will certainly appease some, the new cybernetic abilities and movement systems and the way that they change the game are what make it more fun to play. The real game changer, though, is the cyber core abilities. There are 3 distinct abilities that can change the way you approach any encounter, depending on which you select before heading out on a mission. Chaos, Control, and Martial are the 3 trees which include a variety of upgrades for each path. Chaos, for instance, can be used to do a number of things to enemies. You can cause enemy cybernetic systems to overload, you can burst them into flames, or even send a swarm of fireflies to kill or distract them. Control is quite different. This branch allows you to turn enemy emplacements against them. Things like turrets or drones can be used to defeat enemies by simply highlighting and controlling them. Finally, Martial was the ability that I liked the best. It gave you enhanced battle abilities like time-slowing mechanics and invisibility that blended the first-person shooting in the best way. Regardless, Black Ops 3 doesn't feel like a traditional Call of Duty campaign, and it has a lot to do with these abilities and the freedom of customization. The campaign also features a new feature called the Safe House. Here, players outfit themselves for any mission they're about to embark on. The aforementioned cyber cores are accessible here, but so are things like loadouts, including the gunsmith and paint shop features. costumes, a data vault, and even a training simulator that functions like a small-scale horde mode set in a virtual reality setting. Black Ops 3 is certainly more ambitious in its delivery for single-player, relying not only on spectacle this time around to deliver a compelling single-player experience. It can all be done with a partner, or partners as well. Up to 4 players can play any Black Ops 3 campaign level at any time, and enemy difficulty scales with the player count. While it's nice to see cooperative modes returning to Call of Duty that aren't zombies modes, all of the new weapons and abilities can make for some of the most hectic action to date. Whether in single player or cooperative, there's a ton of stuff to do in Black Ops 3. Complete the single player story and you'll get to do it all again in a mode called Nightmare, which is a full-blown campaign that replaces both the narrative structure and enemy units with zombies similar to those found in the traditional cooperative zombies experience. Speaking of which, zombies in Black Ops 3 is a return to form for the series. While Sledgehammer did their best to rebottle that Treyarch magic from Black Ops and Black Ops 2, it wasn't quite as engaging as we've seen in the past. Treyarch's take is one that is set in the 1940s and feels like an entirely different standalone experience from the rest of Black Ops 3. It's got its own Hollywood talent attached to the mode, including Ron Perlman, Heather Graham, and others. It gets back to the secretive nature that we've seen from this mode in the past, one that tasks players with not only outliving the zombie horde, but to also solve puzzles, complete quests, and other cryptic activities. The 3 years that Treyarch has had to make Black Ops 3 has clearly paid off. They were able to do so many different things on the single player and cooperative side of the game that this feels like an entirely different series at some points. I didn't even mention the unlockable Dead Ops mode or free run time trials that are entirely fun to play as standalone experiences as well. The bottom line is that there's a wealth of things to do in this game, even if you could care less about competitive multiplayer. For the first time in the series, Call of Duty offers an equally compelling set of modes and options for single player or cooperative players that stacks up to the game's most popular competitive features. That said, competitive play in Black Ops 3 is as fun and sound as ever. The familiar high frame rate action is mixed with both traditional systems and completely new things for Call of Duty, like revamped movement mechanics and specialist characters with unique power-ups and abilities. The specialists are 9 playable heroes that each have their own look, personality, voice, weapons, abilities, and customization options. It changes the game in that it offers players another character-specific ability that can be used during any multiplayer match. Once unlocked, you can simply choose a specialist and whether you'd like to use their weapon or ability. These have varying effects and endless combinations can compose a team's roster. The Prophet, for instance, has a lightning gun that can kill enemies in one shot. If a second enemy gets too close to that one, they'll be shocked as well, and you'll get a chain kill. Choose his ability instead, and you'll be able to warp around the map to get out of trouble quickly. These weapons and abilities vary between the 9 specialists and are a lot of fun to try out. It's hard to pick a clear favorite as they're all fun to experiment with, but different abilities like having active camo, a flamethrower, a quad barrel minigun, a bow with explosive arrows, be able to command a swarm of nanobots, or others opens up some options to the gameplay and strategy. Once game developers opened up Pandora's box for alternative movement systems in shooters, we've seen strong trends towards greater freedom. Advanced Warfare introduced exosuits, and Treyarch takes that idea and runs with it. Certainly different than last year's system, players can still use thrust jumps to get vertical, but power slides, fast mantling, and wall running have all been added to the game, and the movement feels great on these tightly designed maps that were made with these mechanics in mind. The movement system makes this year's game feel faster than ever, and despite having all these traversal options available, you're always still just a trigger press away from getting a kill. The movement system has gotten more complex and opens many different options for how to use the environment, but competitive Black Ops 3 still relies on head-to-head action, and the movement system doesn't really take away from this in any of the game's popular returning modes, or new ones. We tested a number of them: Search and Destroy, Capture the Flag, Kill Confirm, Team Deathmatch, Hardpoint, Uplink, and others, while there was one new one called Safeguard as well, that functioned something like a President mode that required teams to prevent or accompany a robot to a predetermined location. The only thing really lacking from the competitive space in Call of Duty is more hardcore modes. There are far less than we've seen in previous years, and it's unclear if Treyarch will add some of those back for fans of that kind of playlist. Call of Duty has been getting less static in recent years by offering players loads of customization. Black Ops 2 introduced the Pick 10 system for creating custom classes, and it returns for Black Ops 3. This essentially allows players to pick any 10 items from their armory to take into battle. This can be any combination of perks, primary and secondary weapons, attachments, or tactical and lethal grenades. Going hand in hand with this system are the paint shop and gunsmith aspects of customization. Paint shop allows you to create custom gun skins, while gunsmith allows players to make different weapons and save them to load up quickly into created classes. Where Advanced Warfare offered supply drops as an added incentive built into the leveling system for the game, Black Ops 3 introduces the black market. Cryptocurrency is earned in-game to exchange at a black market vendor, who sells normal and rare supply caches. These caches include cosmetic upgrades and skins for weapons and outfits, as well as rare pieces which can be collected to form sets. Again, this is just another way to further enhance the customization aspect of the game. Basically, customization in Black Ops 3 is the culmination of many of the features we've seen in other recent entries. Just about everything, in every aspect of this game, can be customized. It's not a huge surprise that there's this much depth in Black Ops 3 multiplayer. Many still hold Black Ops 2 as the best game in the series when it comes to competitive online action. Specialists, while they may be somewhat controversial, are integrated carefully. Movement feels like a natural evolution, and there's plenty to play, unlock, and customize. Again, it all comes back to multiplayer being a portion of the game that feels refined and stocked full of content due to the developers getting more time to spend on the game. So here's the verdict on Black Ops 3. It's absolutely stuffed to the brim with content on all fronts, and nearly none of it feels like filler. Changes to the single player and the addition of new cooperative modes make the campaign feel less like an afterthought than it has in recent years, and gives players plenty of reasons to come back and play it again. Treyarch stays at the head of the class with Black Ops 3 competitive multiplayer and zombies modes as well. While 3 years has given us some time to possibly forget how masterfully crafted Black Ops 2 was, Black Ops 3 is both the biggest and best Call of Duty game we've seen since.